What you got in there?
A little bourbon.
That makes one of us.
I'll tell you what. Trying to run a podcast is so much work. I'm just glad that I went to art school and dropped out because I did take a video class for 2 semesters, and that's how I learned how to use this Premiere platform. And we would have to record these art projects and show them to the whole class. So that's how I learned.
Do you have time to tell me that story again? It was riveting. Thinking about my whole run tomorrow.
Shh. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ironically Serious. Let me say that again because I always say ironically too fast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ironically Serious. It's your host, Taylor Hedden, with a special guest, Josh Hedden.
Indeed. It's a great intro.
It is a good intro. I mean, people know you are. I don't need to say anything else. Right?
I don't know what your people know.
I don't know what they know either, to be honest. I do talk about you actually a lot. Anyways, we tried to record a podcast episode together. What was that, a month ago?
I would say about a month ago.
Trash. I didn't even listen back to it. I don't want to.
It's like the same week Michaela came, right? Like a week before, maybe?
Yeah, like a week before, because we were testing out the 2 mics and the whole setup. And
the mics worked.
The mics worked. I did not work. My brain did not work. But I think this one will be better. I'm not as nervous.
Only place to go from there was up. So.
Yeah, that's true. I think we are up. We're up about 6 floors right now.
And we're up about 3,424 feet.
Reporting live from Amarillo, Texas, in this gorgeous hotel room. If you're watching on YouTube, we're staying at the Barfield.
This might be the one time in your life you say recording live from Amarillo, Texas. So.
I know. I would come back, though, and do like a little vacation, but I don't know if I would do the drive with the kids, but I feel like it'd be fun to bring them here.
20-hour travel time with those two. I mean,
I don't know if it would be worth it. You might as well go to Florida if you're going to travel 10 hours with kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Actually, is that even a 10-hour drive?
I don't know.
Might be longer.
I had friends that made the trip to Destin when I was younger, but that was friends, not me.
Yeah, I went to church camp in Florida once.
God, the amount of time you say, I went to church camp. Subtle flex.
Just talk a little louder.
Okay.
Because it sounds good here, but I feel like the tone is low. And so I don't want it to be like, oh, hey, guys.
No, we don't like low tones around here.
I like a low tone. Actually, in my real vlogging era, it's so embarrassing because I used to think I was a great YouTuber, and I was listening back to some videos I had with the old husband, and my voice
Tony
was so bad. It was really high pitched and nasally, and I don't know if that's just you grow up and your voice changes, or if I've learned how to sound better.
I'm getting the female Ray Romano.
The female Ray Romano?
Yeah.
That's what I sound like?
That's what you're describing you used to sound like.
Oh, yeah. Like that nasally, hey guys.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just like that?
It was pretty bad.
Wow.
Well, tell people why we're here in Amarillo.
We're here in Amarillo to...
Fuck some shit up.
I'm here to do a little run, and you're here to...
A little run?
Support me.
It's not a little run. It's a big run.
It's going to be my longest to date. That's true.
50 miles.
50 miles starting tomorrow morning. Granted, as long as the weather holds up.
Yeah, we're expecting a snowstorm this evening. I'm terrified because I'm going to be the one sitting there not moving. At least you'll be moving. You'll have body heat happening, right?
Oh, I run so hot. I'm not really worried. The only things that concern me from here until tomorrow is as long as they don't cancel the race and as long as I'm not required to drive on ice.
Yeah, that would be bad.
To get there, those are the only real concerns I have. Everything else I'll figure out once we're there.
You know, I tell people that you run and people are like, oh, that's so cool. Does he like run around the neighborhood? I'm like, well, he does. And all the bitches in the neighborhood honk at you because you run shirtless and all sexy and shit. But when I tell people you run long distances and that you've signed up for obviously 100-mile race and then telling people about this race, people are just, their response is often, is he insane?
That's a valid question. It's a valid question.
I mean, are you?
I'd have to brush up on what that exactly means. I don't know. I understand the confusion as to why somebody would do that. I mean, once I quit playing soccer, I thought I've said this before, but I thought I was done running. I thought I ran so many hours of my childhood and like teenage years that I just thought that I would never run again. I would just lift weights and maybe short distance if I ever had to, but that was about it. Or playing sports like pick up basketball or stuff like that would be the only reason I'd run. But yeah, like I told you downstairs when I was doing the shakeout run on the hamster wheel, which I don't have to do often, but it does not bother me at all. I can just sit there and run for hours. And today was not hours, but I love running.
You've always loved running?
No.
Okay.
No.
So when did the shift change?
Well, you were there when it changed. I'm trying to think what year that was. When I was working at chemical plants.
Yeah.
And
2021 maybe? Because it was in the old house.
Yeah. I would say probably maybe like 2020.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, I think it was like going on and off before COVID hit. Or maybe right around then. And then once we got COVID, I remember it being like that was the longest I had gone without running. I didn't run very frequently. Like I say, very frequently. I didn't run like as often as I do now, because I can look back at those days on my app and it's just like sporadic. But I probably started running then. I remember specifically like those days whenever it would be very challenging for me to go like 3 miles some days, and I'd be super frustrated. But I remember like a shift in how I felt from the start of the run to the end of the run, and where I was at then. I think you remember, like mentally, emotionally, however you want to put it, that I was not okay. And I think that at first that really helped. And then over a long period of time, I say long, I don't know what is long to people, but for us, I think it was like, you say it was about 2.5 years before I was like, I just loved running and liked doing it all the time. I didn't feel like I had to. I feel like I have to now still, but it
was different though. Cause I remember you would come home from runs and you would just be like aggravated, or you would be preparing for a run or about to go on one and be like, I don't want to fucking do this.
Very much so.
And now sometimes you say that if you haven't if you haven't eaten or you've been drinking, or like, it's just been a week and you're like, I don't want to run, but I'm going to, but you're never, it's different. It's not like you're like, I don't want to run.
If the rarity comes that I don't want to go for a run, it's more or less inconvenient.
Yeah, that's
and I'm
it.
like, I could do more with this hour and a half, 2 hours, but it's going to put me in a bad position if I don't. So then I'm just going to do it. And I'm never in a bad mood when I come back from a run. Well, I was going to say I fumbled my words there because I just got like a PTSD like snapshot of the couple of runs that I really just fucked up. And those are not fun, but even that I've come back better from.
Do you remember that time I was trying to get content
and
outside of the house? I didn't realize you were dying, but he's coming around the corner, and then I'm like, oh, this is going to be such a good shot, because you were like running straight down the street, and I was like, I'm going to get this angle. And then when you were about, I don't know, 10, 15 yards away, you're like, turn that shit off. I was like, oh, fuck.
That was like a scene in a horror movie where you hadn't yet seen like the murderer chasing me, and you hadn't seen yet that my leg was like half hacked off. You were limping by the time you got close to me, and I was like, yeah, this is not. I was limping for 1.5 miles before you saw me. It was just you didn't notice I was limping until I got super close. But yeah. Anyways, that being said, I've just scaled my way up to this, and it's interesting though, because when I first started running, it was very like the best part was like how long I could stay out there and run. And now I'm not going to say I don't like it, but the long runs feel so much different, because it's not, when I run at home, or I run like on training runs, it's very rarely is it like, let me see how far I can go until I just have nothing left, and then push a little bit more and then have nothing left. It's happened a few times in training because it's been like paces I have to hit, but it's very rare. Like, actually it's not rare. It's just, I don't do it. Because I have a training plan and my coach doesn't prescribe those days where it's like, hey, go out there and try to kill yourself. Yeah, it's specific. Yeah, if it's like a kill yourself day, it's like planned and it's, prepped for, and I know it's coming. Whereas before I would like kind of get off on just going out there and like, let me just see how far I can go. It's like people who hit a 1 rep
max like every week. And you're like,
Yeah, I used to do
you're not
that.
supposed to go to the gym and just fucking balls to the wall on one rep every single week and just empty the tank if you're trying to actually scale correctly to a
like
specific
sustainably
goal.
increase
Yes.
strength or muscle size. Yeah, for sure. So this will be interesting. This is like me going back to my roots because it's just like, oh, you want to run long, you want to run far, you want to see how long you can stay out there. Okay, let's do it.
So last night when we were at dinner and that girl was like, oh, I was a cross country runner. Cross country they don't run 50 miles, do they? Or do they? I don't know. No.
You ever seen a track meet for high school where they're 10
12
hours?
hours. God, no. I'd be like, you're on your own, kid.
No, I don't know their distances, but
Okay.
I don't think anybody's running in high school. Like, there are no high schoolers doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't think that any high school has a competition where they travel and they go out there and we're going to do these 8+ hour track meets for one event.
It's more like half marathons and things like that, right?
I don't even know. I think it's Ks.
Did you say gays?
Ks.
Oh, Ks. Oh,
There could be gays in the cross country club.
For
Wouldn't be
sure.
surprised.
Yeah. We love gays.
I was going to say that, but you said it.
I said it. We love gays on this podcast.
The gays love me.
They do love you. It's way worse when your beard is thicker.
When I had one,
I mean, you have a beard right now. It's just not like the beard.
wouldn't consider this a beard yet.
I don't even think I told that story in the podcast. Oh, I did because I did mention that our reel went viral and there's 500,000 views, even though we got 0 followers. Just proof that going viral literally does not matter in the grand scheme, because you can have one video go viral and no followers, nothing from it. Just cool.
Not even free beard products.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we could probably pitch them.
Whenever I get back to standard.
Yes. Or if you bring the handlebar back, because then you could get some mustache products, like some mustache wax.
Yeah, one of the girls on the team was like, you should do the
Little twirly.
Yeah, that's exactly what she said,
That's
actually.
definitely speakeasy vibes.
Yeah.
So with this 50-mile race that's about to happen tomorrow, are you scared?
No. I wouldn't use the word scared.
Nervous?
What do you even say nervous? I feel like before my last half marathon, and especially before the last marathon, I felt way more anxious. Like the pit of my stomach, it was just, everything was, it's probably like 5 days leading up to that marathon, especially the last like 2 or 3 days. It was just, I had small distractions like the basketball game that would take my mind off it, and I was super excited. But this is different. I have no idea what to expect. I feel like, I do. I have an idea of what to expect, but I've consistently told myself that they could go way out, like off the rails earlier or later. What I think is, I understand, like I have expectations or like thoughts about how it's going to go, but I have a real like part of me that's like keeping me in check, saying like, yeah, or it could be nothing, like none of the above. It could go none of the ways you're figuring it'll go. So we'll go out there and see what happens. I have a bit of a game plan and start off with that, go from there.
Well, I feel like at least from the last marathon, the one thing that, maybe not the one thing, but with not fueling correctly prior to the race, you've corrected that this time. Because remember at the last marathon, like your heart rate was down, you felt energetic, it was just your legs kept cramping. I mean, not the half, sorry, the full.
Yeah.
The full is what I meant to say.
Well, kind of, but I mean, I should be eating right now. So as soon as we get into this, I'm
right
gonna eat.
here.
I'm good.
I guess you shouldn't be eating
Last
much
thing I
more
need right
cheese.
now is cheese.
Bro, he's been farting all day.
I do need to drink this though. 1 second.
We went to the gym and got a little workout in, and I tagged this hotel Barfield. It's an autograph collection, Marriott. I tagged it and was saying how great of a spot it is for podcasting. And I had all of our equipment set up while we went to the gym, and we came back to the room and they left us this cutie little cheese board with a note. How thoughtful. All you got to do is send me a cheese board and I will love you.
They're getting a great Yelp review.
A great Yelp
From
review.
the person that used to be a Yelp elite.
I know. That's still a tough subject for me. Being a Yelp elite for almost 10 years and then losing it to that bullshit Pilates studio. Mistakes. Anyways,
Yeah.
50-mile race and then the 100-mile race, which is even crazier. I don't even understand. I mean, I understand it, but I think like kind of how we were even talking about the wreck that happened yesterday, which we need to tell that story. No one's going to understand it till you're there, either as a person running it or a crew or a bystander, like just someone who's actually there. But Josh is running Leadville 100-mile race one day, August 16th?
16th or 17th, yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
April, May, June.
If you look at
4 months.
I think it's 5 months.
4 months.
April, May, June, July. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
4 and change.
4 and change.
Because, I mean, this race will be over in the day tomorrow. So we'll essentially have like almost all like 3 weeks of April. And then, yeah, I'm going to be tapering, but there'll be like 2 weeks of August before race day, over 2 weeks. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the work, I think I'm excited. I'm really not trying to look past this race, but a lot of excitement still is to come about just the like amount of volume. I feel like prior to this race, let me go back a little bit. Going into the marathon, it was a lot of like high paced workouts, a lot of like speed work.
The last one?
Yeah. Well,
which was February, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of structured runs where the paces are super high, which makes it, whenever you're newer to running like me, you have to balance that. You can't like go jump super high with increased paces and jump super high up and increase mileage and consistently do that without getting injured, unless you're a freak of nature, which exists, and that's not me.
Truett Haynes. Isn't that right?
He's a big dog.
He's a freak of nature. He's the one that does all the pull-ups, right?
10,001 one day.
Guinness World Record?
Yeah.
I can't even do one.
All right, let's get off his nuts for just a second.
Bub has 10,000 pull-ups in
He's
one day.
He's going to run Leadville in jeans.
Yeah, that is a different type of insanity.
That's not like I'm going to run Leadville. He's going to run Leadville in jeans.
I wonder what kind of underwear he wears. Like, because he's got to chafe so bad.
He doesn't chafe.
Is that just like genetics or the right type of jeans?
No, he uses those loop sticks and he does have the right type of jeans. They're literally called the perfect jeans.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, so prior to that, it was very structured. I was getting like 55, 60 mile weeks here and there, but 45 to 55 was very comfortable. But over the last, like training for the ultra, this one right here, I was very comfortable with like 65 to 70 mile weeks. And I think that after this race is over, I'm excited to stay above 70 mile weeks. And I think that completing this race tomorrow and then building back up to like over 70 mile weeks consistently, throwing in climbing, like an elevation with those, and then just building the legs up, I think I'll feel a lot more confident going into Leadville than I maybe thought I would have felt, 2 months ago, just because it feels good to put that kind of mileage on the legs. And the biggest like indicator, or the biggest like boost of confidence for me, was that I was telling my coach the other day whenever we were talking about this race, is that like last month, I had a taper the last week, so I didn't run many miles. I dropped my mileage by like 35 miles. But even dropping at 35 miles for the last week of March, I still hit over 270. So
for the month?
Yeah. So I think that for me being able to run what would have been a 300-mile month, my legs felt fresher than they had any month at all in the last 6 months prior to that month. So I know it's like a lot of words, but in 1 month, 300 miles, my legs felt better than they have in 7 or 8 months. So that's very confidence boosting for me. And then I understand there's like a lot of work to do still, but I think the biggest thing is checking this off. This is like, if I say mini Leadville, people are going to be like, no, it's not. And they're probably right. But nonetheless, it's a slight bit of elevation gain.
And that track loop is nuts looking.
Yeah, I don't know what that's going to be like. Because of the weather, they moved the venue of the race, or the location of the race, about 48 hours ago now. But 50 miles on the legs, being on the legs for over 10 hours. I think that no matter how the race goes, I'll have a lot of information. And so my coach kind of leaving this race and leading into, Leadville prep, and then also have, I don't know if it's going to be a week or 2 weeks after this for like recovery. I have no idea what to expect. That is one thing I don't expect. Either. I feel like I'm going to be really good for the first 30 miles. And there's only 20 left after that.
Yeah, you're over halfway there.
Yeah. So I think I keep saying this and I don't want to sound like a fucking asshole, but I think the first 30 are going to be relatively easy.
Yeah.
And then I think that the last 20 could be anything. So we'll see.
I mean, I think it's a testament, though, to starting something when you're older. Because, I mean, yes, you ran when you played soccer, but you're 32, 33?
Yes, 32. I'll be 33 in December.
My husband is 32, almost 33.
I only know because I saw it on the Race Ultra sign up. And I was checking everybody else's ages.
I feel like people are so afraid to start stuff, especially in their later 20s, early 30s, because I'm not going to be good enough, or I'm not going to be as good as anybody else who's been training longer.
You know what we call those?
What?
Losers.
That's not true.
Okay, cowards.
Cowards?
Yeah.
It is cowardly.
I think that two things. I think one, look, I already said earlier, I'm not a freak, so if I was one of those guys that's going to break world records, unless it's in a very niche type of race that has to have a lot of things in there maybe that would be like built in just for me to do well at, any race that's out there, I'm probably not going to break any records ever. And that's just that, because if I was a freak of nature, you would know by now. Guys like Cameron Hainsa and Truett, guys who can kind of like get into it. Now he busts his ass and he works harder than me for sure, and works harder than probably, 85% of people at anything he's done. But nonetheless, if I was a freak, you would have seen me run like my first marathon in like 3 something, or by the time I'd been training for 2 years, you would see, well, I guess I only had 1 year of real training. So, but even then, if I was a freak, you'd see after this 1 year, like this last marathon, I wouldn't have cramped up. I would have hit like 3:30 and under. But even then, all I'm getting at is the freaks like those guys in Austin that I've showed you numerous times, like they're running marathons at like 2:16, 2:15. So even, the guy that ran Leadville last year who beat the like almost 20-year-old record, he ran, I think, like 7-minute pace for the 100 miles. So just to conceptualize what that's like is insane. So all that to go back, you can pick anything new up, and I think that it's much more difficult to just do what you know how to do, unless you absolutely fucking love it to death and you would like do it over anything else. Then for sure, I guess, stay in your lane and do that for the rest of your life. If that's like you found that already, that's cool. That'd be really nice to have. But if you're somebody who wants to do other things or has interest in things and then just doesn't want to do it because fear of failing, I feel like that's silly.
Well, yeah, I feel like most people who listen to my podcast, they're into many different things. They're very multi-passionate. But the fear is, even for me, starting jiu-jitsu, I'm not going to be a freaking world champion. But I'm like, man, I'm not going to be the best at it, but I can still do it and enjoy something and challenge myself in a way that I'm not challenging myself, and just learn something new and enjoy being a beginner and enjoy learning something. And if something comes out of it, like running has for you, where you're now doing ultras and it's become a big part of your life, and it's also just a huge personal development tool that you specifically have. Like, I've seen you change as a dad. I've seen you change as a husband and even a boss from running. So for people who are not doing something because they know they won't be the best at it, that shouldn't stop them from trying.
Yeah, I think that it's very similar with like you and jiu-jitsu, me and running, and anybody who starts kind of anything, even if it's later in life or not. But like you said with jiu-jitsu, you're not trying to be a world champion. You're not trying to get into these massive tournaments and get gold medals, but you can still improve at it. You can still learn. You can still compete. That's another sport where people get in there. We've talked about this. I've told you this before, but Anthony Bourdain didn't start practicing jiu-jitsu. He didn't start practicing until he was in his 50s, maybe 60. But anyways, he got a black belt pretty quickly. I don't mean like in a year or like a month, but like relatively quickly if you look at how long it generally takes people to get black belts. But I mean, it's all a testament to like how much time you put into it, how much effort, how hungry you are at it. And then similar to you and that and me and running is like right now I just have goals that I want to hit. Mm-hmm. And then that's cool. Go on to the next one. If I don't get it, then like don't leave that stone unturned. Like right now, my big goal with marathoning is to run Boston one day. And I'm going to do that. So if that means that I try that for, 2 more years, or I try that for 4 more years, I'm going to qualify for Boston. I'm going to go up there and I'm going to run Boston Marathon. That being said, with ultras, it's something different where it's stretched out a lot longer. So those fast paces don't become as necessary.
Yeah.
And I think that something I'm pretty good at, for better or for worse, is being able to suffer as well as somebody else, if not better. And that comes into play in ultras. And then also, as my friend Donnie likes to bring up constantly, is part of it's an eating competition. And from someone who had an eating disorder, I can put away a lot of food. So channeling those things, being able to suffer, being able to eat a lot, and then just like being determined and driven, and then also stubborn, like all those things play well for me in the ultra space. So again, I think that when it comes to trying things new, it's like you said with me, I mean, it's not unheard of. It happens with, a lot of people who get better at one thing is they're able to like parlay all of those lessons and developed qualities like into other areas of their life, and knowingly or unknowingly. But it's like you are jiu-jitsu, you're sitting here with a black eye, me with running. I'm not like ashamed to say like I've had tears from like being disappointed in my performance. So it's not like, oh, it's just fun to go do. It is fun to go do a lot of the time, but and the cool thing about like what we're doing is, you just mentioned what these people that are scared to try something new because of X, Y, and Z. It's like the funniest thing is that I'm the biggest person who's down on myself when I don't live up to my expectations, but nobody gives a shit what time I run any of these races in.
Yeah.
Nobody really cares. Nobody cares for you if you get tapped out at the gym.
No.
But you'll care. But if I don't live up to my expectations with the goals I've set forth for myself, I care. And I guess what I'm getting at is if you're somebody who is like, I'm not going to do this because, either you don't want to have expectations for fear of failing, or if you're just comparing yourself to other people, then yeah, I mean, that's going to be a pretty, just, I don't want to say like shitty life, but I mean, it's just going to be not as fulfilling in my opinion. Especially once you've opened that door, it's like, that it's there. It's kind of hard to just be like, I don't need to do any of those things. And it doesn't have to be running or jiu-jitsu, it could be anything. And also I think that's how you find what you're good at or what you're passionate about, because like we mentioned with running, I would have never thought that I would enter races. It was really off a whim that I entered a half marathon years ago. There was never, when I was working at the chemical plant and I started running, there was never an idea that like, I'm going to turn this into, I'm going to sign up for races. I'm going to start running races.
Let alone a 50 or 100. Jesus.
Let alone a 50 or 100.
The guys at the plant would have given you so much shit. Like, ooh, big dog running 50 miles.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something. We'll come back to the Leadville thing. Because we've talked about this, not me and you, but I've had a guest on the podcast before talk about eating disorders. I don't know why I never thought to bring this up with you. Because I feel like people only assume women struggle with eating disorders.
No.
And when we think about eating disorders, most people think of a woman like being anorexic or whatever it is. And I'm just curious, one, you can kind of share like what that looked like for you, but how has it going through that affected how you view yourself now that you are, to most people, like a relatively successful person? Like you have a family, you have a great job, you work really hard, you clearly have a passion for running, and you're pretty dedicated to being able to run, whether it's like from a physical perspective, but also mentally. I'm not saying you're perfect, because we could sit here and both talk about all of our flaws and what we do wrong. But I think people would be surprised to hear someone like you who's running a 50-mile race or 100-mile race has struggled with an eating disorder for a lot of your life.
What was the question again? How it looked for me?
Yeah.
And how I got out of it?
Well, yeah. And how it's affected how you view yourself, like your self-confidence.
It's very difficult to say. Let me think about that for a second, because whenever I can remember to this day, like, I don't remember the date, but I remember the instant, like, scene by scene of the day that, like, those floodgates opened, and I just went on let me think of what year that was.
High school?
Probably
middle
about
school?
a 4 or 5 year, probably about it's about, I would say 4.5 years of just like, yeah, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just, I mean, I can explain it, but I mean, yeah, but I just mean, it was like, it was the worst level I could have imagined. Like, it was just crazy. But it was for sure, like, at least 4 years. But I remember, like, the day, and again, not the date, but I remember the instance that everything, like, I just started, and then I just could never stop for like 4.5 years. So when you ask, like, how it made me view myself and stuff, like, I don't know. I wouldn't say it makes me view myself in a good light necessarily, because I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I don't really know how I broke out of that. And it's not like we both know, which is a different story for a different day, that I've developed other addictions since then that I've battled. But it's not like I kicked that one and then I had the blueprint to, like, copy and paste that for other issues that I would, develop. But even now, I remember when it happened and how it happened, but I don't remember. It was just over, I would say, like a few month period where it was like I just kind of went few and far between when I would do it again. And then when I did it, it was just like I didn't find it as satisfying. And then I would go like a longer period of time without doing it. And then it would happen again. I'd slip up and it just wasn't as satisfying. And I'm like really thankful that there was a shift in my mind, but I don't know why necessarily it happened like that. And what was weird was I was never somebody who would get like upset or hurt or emotionally scarred in that instance and then go binge eat. I would do it like every day was a good day, and I would just do it. Well, it wasn't a good day. It was a bad day afterwards because I hated myself. And then the next day I was like, I'm not doing this and fuck this. And I wouldn't eat for like 18, 20 hours, whatever. And then I would consume another like probably 18,000 calories. And people are going to be like, there's no fucking way.
There's a way.
Just
because I've seen you eat.
And I've never even binge ate. I would never consider what I've done since I've known you as binge eating. Even my ex, my last girlfriend, never, as long as we've been together the second time, she had never seen me binge eat. So for anybody that thinks that, even Don, he saw me for a weekend, he's like, you can put away food. I don't even think anybody has seen me really binge eat. My mom will say she did. And the saddest part about that is that she doesn't understand. And I've said it, but she doesn't understand that like when she would go to bed, I would eat for another like 2 hours. And I mean like 2 hours. And you think like there's no way. I've told you this. There was like 2 or 3 instances. I remember one very, very vividly where I thought I was going to die that night. Like I wish I had I don't actually. It'd be terrible to have a heart rate monitor at that point in time. It would just be telling me I was going to die. But yeah, it'd be like after a meal, I would not eat for like 2 days. And then I would be like, I say a meal, it'd be like a 5-hour meal. But yeah, it was just, it was a real problem. And I didn't really have any other addictions then. It was just food. That was all it was.
Do you think maybe it was more like you, because you have an addictive personality, and that's not a mean thing to say, you kind of switched one for something else?
Every time.
Like it was binge eating and then it was probably like working out and then
I just thought about this, dude.
Going to the strip club.
Dude, I had ways where I would lay my food out on a table and I would mix certain things and I would have like set up a bite over here and I would eat this and I'm like setting up bites that I'm going to eat later with like perfectly mixed with like all these different desserts or whatever it is. It was such a mental disorder. It was pretty fucked up.
I can imagine.
If I would probably cry if someone had a camera hidden in the house and I had to rewatch like any one of those nights. it's just like that wreck that happened the other day. Like I could explain it to you in picture perfect clarity, and there's nobody in this world that would think I'm not exaggerating, or that wouldn't think he's exaggerating. My dog, rest in peace, Abigail, she was there for it. She got the few crumbs that fell.
Yeah.
Or if I went to go get, while I was eating my one meal and I went to go, put in my next meal in the oven or turn it over while I'm eating my first or second meal, I'm making another one. Sometimes she'd jump on the table and be like, I'll take some of these calories off your plate for you, literally. But other than her, nobody else ever saw. They saw bits and pieces of it, but they never saw like start to finish.
So when you're running, do you think about like that type of stuff? What do you think about when you're running? Or do you just zone out? Do you get into like a zen? No?
Everything and nothing. I mean, you're talking about so many hours, so it's like it's never like a one thing. It's just so many different things. What do you mean? It depends on like how my life's going too. Like there are things that are just that I can't get off my mind when I go run. It doesn't always get off my mind. It's not like I just clear like, oh, now I'm running, so just forget about that. We'll pick it up when we get back. It's like things that are important are just on your mind regardless.
We'll get to Leadville in a second. Tell everyone the story about the wreck yesterday. Because you mentioned it just now, so it reminded me to talk about it because it's still like, even when we were on the treadmill earlier, I was thinking about that truck coming towards us, and I'm like, holy fuck.
So yesterday, we had just dropped our son off, and we were leaving Spring, Texas to go north to Amarillo, and we were specifically going to stop in Fort Worth. So we embarked on our journey. We were going north for 9 hours.
But we were only about 2 hours in from Richmond.
Yeah, so we drove about an hour to drop our son off, and then from there we left Spring. We were probably on the road, 40 minutes?
Yeah, I'd say.
Half an hour to an hour, somewhere in there. And I'm on the phone with one of my good friends, Donnie, who lives in the Northwest. I met him at Leadville last year, so shout out to Donnie. We were on the phone with him. I say we because he was on speaker, and you usually don't talk whenever I'm on the phone with him, but you listen and you hear all his voice notes because that's how Donnie communicates. So, like usual, I'm talking to him and you're just listening. And we noticed on the left side on I-45 going south, and there's 2 lanes each way. So we were in the fast lane for fucking 9 hours. So we stay in the fast lane, which is, closest to the
median.
Yes. So there's 2 lanes going north, 2 lanes going south. And speed limit is, I want to say 75. So naturally, I'm going at least 85. And on the left side, we see Taylor has all of her things to keep her mind occupied and her stomach full for 9 hours. And she wasn't, looking up or anything. There was no reason. I drove, and I always drive, so wasn't expecting her to scan the road for me. But I tap her on the shoulder as Donnie's talking, and I kind of point over to the southbound side of I-45 because there is a 18-wheeler that had veered off into the ditch on the outside of the lane. And the 18-wheeler was crashed. There was guys standing out there, not policemen, but guys were out there, just it looked like they were just talking and figuring out what was going on. His load of, I don't know if it was iron or metal or whatever it was just all spilled over on the road and in the median, which is grass. And after that, there was probably, I would say, if I had to guess, 50 car lengths of just dead stop traffic behind him because the pileup blocked the whole road off going south. So as we continue to go north, and I continue talking to Donnie, we're going back and forth.
It's only half a mile. It was only a couple, 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Not even.
It wasn't that long because...
Yeah, it was definitely shorter.
If it was 5 minutes, we'd have went about 6 miles.
Okay, yeah, it was 3 minutes from when we saw...
It wasn't very far. I mean, me and Donnie were in the same conversation, and like I said, there's probably 50, 60 car lengths. And as we get to the end of that, Taylor does her oh wow, oh my God, hope everybody's okay. But it didn't look like there was anybody else involved in that accident. It was the 18-wheeler toppled over, and everybody else behind him was stopped. So we get to the end of these, or the length of cars, or whatever you want to say, that are all dead stopped. And me and Donnie are going back and forth. And as he's talking, I see coming southbound, and the nearest lane to us, the nearest lane to the median, is an 18-wheeler, and there's dead stop traffic in front of him, and he seems to be going pretty quickly coming up on all that dead stop traffic. And right in front of him was another 18-wheeler. Surprise, you're probably seeing a trend here. Shout out to I-45. But
18-wheeler central.
Yeah, so he was the one in front of him was carrying a cargo container, and I'm watching this happen as Taylor's working on a computer and Donnie's talking about my run today or tomorrow. And next thing you know, I'm like, there's just no way this guy's going to stop in time. And I'm like watching this happen, and he kind of starts to veer off, like he's swerving towards the median now, because he's realizing I don't know if he's realizing, oh shit, there's dead stop traffic, or he's realizing for whatever reason the brakes are not going to be able to be effective to stop me from hitting these vehicles in front of me. So he starts to swerve towards the median, and from what I saw, he clipped that container. And I mean, it was like a violent, when I say clipped, I just mean he didn't hit it head on. He hit it going towards the median, and he clips it.
So his right side of his hood.
His passenger side of his truck, the front of the 18-wheeler, hits the back left side of that container.
Yeah.
And I mean, goes straight through that whole corner of it. He then swerves into the median as he bailed off the road to avoid hitting more people or making it more violent. And,
And this is where I looked up.
It's a good choice. Or a good move. Wasn't exactly then, I guess it was. At this point, simultaneously, as I'm watching this, I tap Taylor on the shoulder. And I don't say anything because Donnie's talking, so I'm not going to interrupt him. I tap her on the shoulder, and I point over there, and she starts going, oh my God. And I'm looking at this guy okay, I'm thinking he's going to go to the median to, derail himself to avoid hitting traffic and just sail down the median. And whatever happens to him, he's like, I just want to avoid hitting people. I'm thinking that. But he continues to roll through the median barrier, which is at this point, it's just basically iron,
fencing,
iron
kind
ropes.
of?
It's like those metal ropes.
It ain't shit. It's grass and these literal.
He ripped through it like a fucking knife through butter. And you couldn't hear anything, but he goes straight through them, and he's heading straight for us, just barreling at however fast he's going. We're still going at least 85. And all this happens probably in a matter of 8 seconds, 10 seconds. 10 would probably be long. It's probably 6 to 8 seconds.
Yes.
And as this is happening and I'm pointing it out to you, and he's coming straight towards us, I just swerve to the right. I don't think I check over my right hand shoulder. I think there was no option anyways.
No,
but I swerve to the right, and I mean, he comes within feet of just nailing my side because he's coming from that side of the road. But we swerve over, and you scream, and then we both look. I look in the rearview mirror, you look in your passenger side mirror, and we proceed to watch the blue Chevy Colorado behind us. Looks like it gets hit with an IED in fucking war, and gets blasted to smithereens. And at that point, you scream frantically, and Donnie at that point quit talking and was like, "Is everything okay?" And
good accent.
"Everything okay, mate?" And you were I was like, yeah. I said, dude, we just almost got hit and someone behind us got destroyed. I was like, let me call you back. You call 911, yada, yada, yada. It ended up being just a terrible wreck behind us, but yeah.
Again, what we were talking about earlier of you have to be there. Because I feel like people think we're going to be hitting the nail over the head, but it felt like a near-death experience.
Well, it was a near-death experience. I've never been that close to dying.
I've never been that close to dying either.
I'll be honest with you. You said this, and I was like, I've told everybody this because you were spot on. It was just, if you can imagine a scene from Final Destination, that's exactly how it looked. It's how it went down.
Literally.
Somebody threw an 18-wheeler straight at us that was just going on the other side of the road, and then threw it straight at us, and we moved, and then somebody else took what was coming towards us.
And the craziest part, looking back too, is that it was only us and that other truck. because I mean, I-45, you get in those little pockets where there's a bunch of cars kind of all traveling, at the same speed, but it was just us and him. So when you turned right, thankfully there was no one there. I mean, even like you said, if there was, that would have been the better choice anyways, because we would have collided with someone else versus getting literally destroyed. But then there was no one behind us to stop him from hitting that truck. And from what we could see, there really wasn't anyone behind that truck for quite a few yards, or at least a distance enough to where they didn't then run into the truck, because he was across all the lanes.
I don't remember what all was behind that blue truck. I just remember seeing that when I was like, I think it's a Colorado. I was like, it's not a big truck. But yeah, so.
We almost died.
We did. Very early in the trip.
Terrifying. Scary. We ended up I ended up looking up the reports, and then we saw that, because I mean, you and I were like, there's no way that guy's alive, which I mean, we don't even know right now, but he ended up getting life flighted immediately.
He was alive, at least. Afterwards.
He was alive. Yes. Critical condition. We found out from the report like about an hour or two later. And then who knows right now, if he is alive, it's going to be a
long road back.
Yeah, literally like our road back home as well.
Maybe longer.
It's very scary.
Prayers out to his family though,
or her, she, I don't know if it was a guy, could be a girl.
They said he was life flighted multiple times.
Oh, okay.
But that being said, I mean, it could have been our families getting that call. So
lesson to be a reactive driver. You weren't on your phone. You weren't doing anything stupid, or even just like, you're on a road trip and you like reach back to get something from your backpack while you're trying to like look at the road. You would have missed it. It happened so fast.
Well, people hate when I say this is why men drive.
No, maybe because my podcast is mostly girls.
Yeah, understandable.
We suck at driving, ladies. Okay, we really do.
It's a generalization. Not all ladies. Not all men are good at drivers either.
No, that's true. But if I would have been at the wheel, we'd be dead.
That's one of those things where I'm like, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. I say I'm kidding because the guy that was driving that 18-wheeler I'm 98% sure that was probably a guy, because I'm sure 98% of truck drivers are men. So there's probably a guy that fucked this whole thing up to begin with. But no, I'm like partially kidding. However, yeah, someone's looking out for us, because there's been multiple instances where I have texted. I'm not going to say I haven't texted I've never texted and drove before. Right. I've never been reaching in the back to get something because you said you can't reach it, so I'm going to reach it while I'm driving. So I'm just very lucky too that I was paying attention, because if he would have, if God would have thrown, or whoever would have thrown an 18-wheeler at me at another time of another day, there's a chance that I wouldn't have been able to react. So I'm just happy that, like I told you yesterday, I think that I got pitched like an underhand ball on that one. So very thankful.
I still get
changed like the rest of my day. I mean, my life really, but I'm like the rest of my day, I was just like, this is all now like borrowed time, because
it really is.
Could have just been gone. So,
which is depressing to think about, but it's just true. I mean, I wrote in my newsletter today that I sent out, like, call the people you miss, hug your kids. If you and your mom are fighting right now, like, make up. Like, life's, which is so fucking short, and it's so cliche to say, but you just don't. You never know.
Within reason.
But still.
Yes. That, and take it, and just real quick go back to, or tie that back to, wanting to try things, but not like actually pursuing it, because.
Yeah, I put that in my newsletter as well. I said, stop putting off the things that just, it's not convenient right now, because there might not be a time when it is convenient and you might not be alive. I mean, I know that's an exaggeration, but it's true. It's like, you want to wait to do something, or wait to start something, or you're just going to wait for the perfect time for this to do that. And it's just do it now. Yeah.
Or if I die doing that 50-miler tomorrow, it's like 24 hours, 36 hours more than I should have been, living. So
at least you tried. Let's not talk about that though. You get hypothermia. That's why we have those freaking.
Yeah.
Amazon Prime, those emergency blankets. I might need one.
It's going to have to be colder than that to give me hypothermia, my sweaty ass. So
I think we could wrap up the podcast with you, which I know this will be a long answer, but this can be like the last thing we talk about for this episode. Why Leadville?
As concise as possible. I would say...
Don't be concise.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can say it without just rambling. So when I say concise, I don't mean quick, a short answer. But, last year, whenever my friend Jake O'Neill had asked me to come out and pace him at Leadville. It was, I don't want to say last minute, but it was like 2 months prior. And
Kind of last minute.
you know, it kind of like stacks up for a couple of reasons. One, he knew me from high school. We played soccer together, very competitive. Used to be friends too, like hang out, you know, outside of school, outside of soccer, sleepovers and shit like that. So we were friends. But we were like also really like, we were really like competitive with each other when we played on the same team and we played against each other for multiple years. So he already knew me. A, B, it just so happened that I was just running and nobody told me to run. I didn't know anybody else that ran. I was the only person that I knew that was running. So I had been running for probably, I would say, people always say, oh, I've been doing it for this long, but I've only been doing it seriously for this long. And they say that with everything, not just running. There's a lot of shit. For me, it had been like probably a year since I had done my first race at that point. Maybe less, but let's just say a year. So not only did I know him and he knew me and the kind of like my personality that he was trusting had been the same since high school. And then
It never is.
it also was part of it is. But the other thing was that I had just been running all the time. So he knew whenever he had his original pacer drop out, I'm sure his thought process was who else could come out here and help me? A, B, who is somebody that doesn't have to be able to run 15, 20 miles in 2 months? Who's somebody that already can do that and then can be out there in 2 months? And then see somebody who wanted to probably who cared, who gave a shit enough, because there are guys who are athletic, but they're like, dude, I'm not going to fly out this and take off time and go out there for this whole fucking adventure. I remember whenever he asked me, I was like, he's got, you know, a pretty big ask of you, explain the situation. And I was like, couldn't say yes fast enough. Didn't ask for PTO from my work. Didn't request off. Didn't ask you if it was okay. I was like, fuck yes, I'm there. And I had just been talking to you about how I would love to get deeper into running. And like,
Yeah.
I see so many things that I could, you know, pull from, or I could get things from it, I guess, like selfishly would want to pursue it, but also the changes that it had done for me. Not just confidence wise, but like therapeutically and then health wise. I mean, people say, oh, it's unhealthy, but it's like, compared to who? Like the person who's perfectly healthy, or the person who is, or an average person. Because, yeah, you're not going to be healthier than the perfect person who does everything in moderation and is all about health and longevity. But if you're talking about the average person, you're far healthier by being active. So I knew what it had done for me and how it had helped me already. And I see some of these communities, but it's like I'm not the kind of person to just be like, oh, I'm a runner now, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. It's like the people that I look up to have put in their time. They put in their miles. And the way to do that is to do it over weeks, months, years, decades. And I understand I'm like humbly early on in my journey, but I'm like, yeah, like Donnie the other day was like, you're not going to do this for us. We're not going to do this for the rest of our life. And I didn't say anything, but I'm like, I'll do it as long as I can. So, I mean, for me, I'm like, I'll run for 20 years. And, you know, if I fucking quit, call me out. And I'll be like, all right, well, yeah, you're right. But nonetheless, then I got up there. I built up like all this hype for it. I got there, was so ready to crew them. And I told you, like, the sole purpose of me going out there was specifically all I wanted out of the entire trip was whatever Jake needed, I was gonna provide. I was going up there with the mindset of I'm going up there to run, 12 to 15 miles. But if someone else twists an ankle, somebody else gets sick, somebody else is too tired, I am going to tell him no to nothing. There's nothing he's going to ask of me that I'm going to say I can't do that. And then B, all I wanted was, when it was all said and done, him to be like, man, I'm glad that I asked Josh to do this. He was the right guy for this. And I feel like I did that. But I feel like in the 13 miles we shared together, on top of seeing him do and seeing what happened over the first 87 miles, I fell in love with all of it. And I wanted to be a part of it going forward, but it wasn't until partially whenever he was in a real dark place. I mean, literally dark place. It was like 4 a.m. But
yeah, and you have to set the scene a little bit. I mean, people, they're like, what do you mean dark place? Like, you're in the mountains.
Well, yeah, you're not sleeping. And I mean, it's an insane. If you just want to look up Leadville, it's going to be easier than me explaining it. If you just go to Google and type in Leadville 100 distance and elevation, it's like over 10,000 feet of elevation where you're starting, but there's several thousand of feet of climbing and descending. I mean, it's just really insane. So if you go look at those numbers and put them into perspective, it's pretty wild. I'm not saying it's the hardest race in the world, because it's not, but I'm just saying. So 87 miles, and I pick him up. You look at it the other way, he picks me up. He's a different person than the guy that was so excited that night before. He's a different person than I first saw him at a 23-mile marker, where he was still like, oh, things are good, I'm fresh, I'm holding back. And then you see him like wither away physically and mentally. And when I picked him up, I mean, he was seeing things, he was hallucinating, he was saying things that didn't really make a lot of sense. And I realized quickly my job was like not just to run side by side with him. And whenever I saw where he was at, I remember like two things. One, I was like, I have to do this. The other thing was, even before I kind of fully decided that, I had like pulled out all the stops, like with talking to him, motivating him, picking him up when he'd fall, literally would fall over and roll his ankle because he was like falling asleep. And I'm like running out of things to do. And I'm just like, dude, if you get to the fucking finish line, I'll sign up and I'll run this race next year. And you're going to crew me and you're going to push me at the same point. And somehow he didn't really forget that. He forgot a lot of stuff, but he didn't forget that after the race was over.
That's crazy.
But no, I remember seeing it like where he was at mentally. And I was just like, what better way to be like, I'm going to say I'm going to do something and do something. And I think one of the reasons I was so attracted to it, and I've told you this numerous times and it's just so clear to me, is that there's a lot of things in my life that I've said I was going to do or I've started. And then for different reasons, I just stopped or just didn't pursue or didn't follow through. And I always had excuses. And this is like a very literal and metaphorical way of me saying I'm going to do something. And it's such a grand, I'm not going to say again like it's the hardest thing in the world, but it's one of those things that's so difficult. And I'm doing it within a year of seeing it happen. So it's something that I have to like put all chips in at that moment. I couldn't be like, all right, I'm going to get around to that. I'll start training for that then, or I'll start doing these things that are going to help me come August. It's like, no, when I said it to so many people, I have to do it. But then, so I don't look like a fucking idiot and fail, it's like I have to turn over every stone that I can along the way. And I have to like start yesterday. So it's something that would force me to actually put forth my full effort for a sustained period of time. I couldn't be, I have to be consistent. I can't be sporadically, consistent on like a few days in a row, or let work get in the way, or, we have kids, I'm tired, I'm not going to run today. Like, it had to be every single day. Do you fucking want this? Do you want to let people down? Do you want to look stupid? Do you want to fail yourself? Do you want to quit again? Is that who you want to be for the rest of your life? And it was me like literally and figuratively just saying, this is it. Like, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to, and I could fail, but in my mind, there's no way I am. And it's one of those things that I just saw immediately. And I was like, this is something that I didn't know that I was looking for. And it just so happened by like so many different, I guess like chances or like things that were just kind of luck in a way, like pieces that fell in place that put me out there to even see it. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been. And it's not, once it's over, it'll be like, all right, what's the next thing? But I mean, for right now and for the last year, in the back of my mind, it's like, I know I'm going to do that. And, I think it's also, with our kids, 10 and 5 years old, it's like, we've given them a better life than we have, or we had at that point. I'm not going to say better. Actually, I disagree with that, but I'm saying that an easier life, a more comfortable life than we had growing up. Yeah. And I still want them to see, though, that even though they don't have to go through some of the same challenges, that you're going to be like a defective person if you don't have adversity to fight through. You can't come out good. You can't come out solid. You can't come out strong if you don't have adversity. And granted, there are people going through real struggles in life. I'm not going to intentionally put myself in a spot where I'm broke again, where I'm homeless. I'm not going to say I have a family, but I'm going to go do something reckless where I don't know if I can get myself out of the situation.
Right.
So, because I'm not going to do those things, and I'm fortunate enough to not have to do those things, this is an alternative, right? Is what can you do that's difficult? Similar to you with jiu-jitsu, right? Like putting yourself in a place where you know you're going to be uncomfortable every fucking time you do it. And I want them to see that. And if I fail, I want them to see that too. I mean, same with the marathon. Mm-hmm. They saw me like break down because I let myself down in that marathon. I let my coach down, and other people may not see it that way. That's how I see it. And that's okay. Like, take that, acknowledge it, let it run its course.
Literally.
Take a deep breath. And then what are you going to do about it? There was like a scene in Lawless, which is just like a really funny thing to bring up right now, but it's always stuck out to me. We both love Tom Hardy, so...
Is that the one where he's both brothers?
No, that's Brothers. No, I'm sorry, that's Legend, actually.
Oh.
No, it's the one where it's the Moonshine Runners.
Yes.
And I think Shia LaBeouf gets fucked up. He's a great actor there,
I
too, but
love
nonetheless...
that movie. We should watch that tonight.
Shia LaBeouf, I would be down. Shia LaBeouf essentially like gets his ass handed to him. He gets the fuck beat out of him. And he goes back to his brother, who is played by Tom Hardy, and he kind of tells him that, hinting at him like, you know, you got to fuck this guy up for fucking me up, because his brother historically did. Because Tom Hardy's the most badass of all time as far as actors go. And Tom Hardy just looked at him sternly, and he's like, saw Shia LaBeouf's face, and he's just fucked up. And he's just like, what are you going to do about it? Like, what are you going to do about this guy? You let this guy kick your fucking ass. What are you going to do about it? And Shia LaBeouf looks at him like confused, because he's like, I thought when you saw me, you'd go fuck this guy up. And he's like, Tom Hardy kind of looks at him dead serious, like one of my favorite scenes. And he's like, well, you thought I was going to do something? And he's like, got in his face. And he says it with the only face he can, that stern fucking look. And he doesn't even look at him. He just gets up to him. And he's like, what do you intend to do about this? And it's just like, one day, no matter how well taken care of you are, like, what are you going to do about your life? And you can acknowledge the fuck ups, you can acknowledge the shortcomings, the pitfalls, the bad, hand you were dealt. But at the end of the day, what are you going to do about this? And that's how I, maybe way too serious for some people. That's like the only way that I like.
It's ironically
go through
serious.
certain things. That is funny. See? And that's the only way that I go through certain things. And like with running, that's how I do it. I take it way more serious than I should. But I feel like I get everything out of it that I can. And, I would hope other people could find things where they get like a similar ROI on all the energy. I mean, all the hours that I spend doing it, all the hours some people spend doing stuff. It would be a tragedy if I was just going through the motions and I was just signing up to like, oh, I did another, and not downplaying people that do. If you're like, I get my passion somewhere else. I do this for meditation. I do this for health. That's great. But I'm just saying that like, hopefully you can find something. Hopefully people have something where it's just like,
this is hard.
Nobody else has to fucking care about this. I care about this. And it's actually probably better if people don't, because then you're doing it for other people. Yep. And this is one of those things where if I lost everything, I would lace up my fucking shoes and I would go for a run. And that's that.
That was pretty good. That was a good way to end it. Look at you. Well, I think we're done.
Until next time, folks. All right. Let's go eat.
That's pretty good.
Can I say I'm natural?